All right, students, Jessica here, and I'm talking about getting started on a master copy painting, and one option is to use a grid. All right, so I'm just going to talk about this as in terms of how to get started and thinking about composition. Right, so let's say this is the painting you want to copy, for example, right? Okay, so for the first thing that you should notice about this is a weird shape, right? Do you have a canvas that is this shape? Probably not. I mean, you never know. Some people do, but most people don't. In terms of just canvases laying around your home. All right, so the first option would be to go find a canvas's shape. All right, second option would be to crop it. All right, so you could, for example, think like, okay, I'm just gonna do new layer. Well, I got some red here. All right, you could say, for example, okay, I'm only gonna do this part. Let's say you have a canvas shape that maybe perhaps your canvas is 16 by 20 or something, or 8 by 10, which would be the same proportions, and you can just do that, right? Another option is to add extra. So what if you wanted to add a little bit kind of down here, a little bit more sky kind of up here you're going to add, and maybe, so something like this, doing it until, if you had a 24 by 36 or 12 by 18, right, that would be kind of closer to this size, right? So that's something you want to think about, whatever painting you're making. Whatever painting you're copying versus whatever canvas size you have, that's what you want to figure out in terms of your composition, right? Now, let's say you wanted to crop it, and I'm going to make this layer visible, and the painting you're going to do here, right, and I'm actually just going to delete that layer. Okay, now let's say you're going to crop it, and I'm just using the kind of ruler here to kind of see where I want this to go. So this here would be if I had a canvas that's maybe 9 by 12 or something. All right, so now these lines I'm drawing on it, I'm about to draw some lines in the middle, right, and those you can draw on them like this digitally, or you can, I think the easiest thing for doing this part is printing it out and just drawing on this with a pen or pencil or something, right? If you have an iPad, and I'm sorry to those folks who have something other than an Apple thing, I'm just going to show you how you can draw on this. So if you have any picture here, and if you look in the upper right corner and you see this thing that says edit, click on that. And then look in the upper right corner again, you see the thing that says done, the arrows, the 3 dots, and then the marker tip, and then the eyeball. Well, we want that marker tip. And now this is the markup tool. You see on the left all these tools. If I click the one at the top, that's that yellow pen. You can click down the bottom to choose different colors down here, whatever color you want. We have an eraser tool. You can erase. And look at this, we have a ruler tool. So I can use 2 fingers to pivot this around to whichever angles I want, right? And then you can go ahead and draw. Make sure you have the pen selected, and you can go ahead and draw along that ruler, right? So this is how you would, if you have an iPad and want to draw on, to make these grid lines. All right, so anyhow, I'm back to this Adobe Fresco program, and let's say this is where I want to crop my painting. All right, so I want this, again, this rectangle to be the same shape as my canvas. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and now I have this layer here. So let's say this down here is my my canvas. Okay, I'm just going to scoot this over like that. There we go. So you can, now if this is my canvas, I can just take my paintbrush and start kind of painting away on this. Here's his little arms and whatever. All right, now we could do that, or we can do a couple of lines to help me orient myself. Right, so now pretend this is my printed out picture of the painting that I'm going to be copying, and I'm using my ruler. I'm moving it up and down till it looks about half. Now, if you have this printed out, you can simply fold this in half and open it back up, and you'll have this crease, right? And you can just trace where that crease is. So now I'm dividing this in half this way, and I'm going to do the same thing this way. So again, if this is printed out, you can fold it and then unfold it, and you have this crease. All right, now if you were to look at this, right, you can see if I'm going to go ahead and start painting that in, I have a point of reference that's going to be helpful for me. So I took a couple screenshots of a video where I do this, and here it is. So here is my painting on the right, and I've just very lightly sketched with some paint down the center, vertically and horizontally. All right, so let's say this is my painting, and I am just gonna go ahead and sketch. Here's with my paint, and I'm moving this up and down till I feel like this looks like, you know, something like that. All right, now you know, so now if I'm gonna go paint this, there's a few things that I can see. All right, so look at where I'm looking around the side. Here is where the elbow is. Look how close the elbow comes to the right side of the frame. Look at where this wing goes. All right, so there's a few things in here that if I'm going to start now I'm looking at this one on the bottom, and I can see my lines aren't exactly centered. Right, you would want to take a little bit more time and do this. Right. So I'm looking in this quadrant on the bottom right, and I'm just sketching in with my paintbrush. Okay, that's kind of where that wing goes to. Right, look at this one on the left. I see that elbow, I see the wing, I see that space between the wing and that center line. Right, so this is this crosshairs that I drew on here, the vertical and horizontal center lines. I've made a very simple grid. Right, some people do the grid and they go all out, and they'll have like multiple lines on here, and then they have all these lines on their painting, and they really just, you know, look at this negative space in here and really go by that. Some people think that this technique kills the spontaneity and expression of a painting, right? And I think that if you have a lot of grid lines, that can maybe be true to an extent. Although, when we're doing a master copy, what is our goal really? Is it to make a self-expressive piece, or is it to do a master copy? I mean, in doing a master copy, to some extent, you are trying to learn something from doing it. In this case of this specific assignment, we're thinking about color and skin tone. Right? But I feel that for myself, just doing a very simple grid where I have a center line, a vertical and a horizontal one, just really it really goes so far in giving me a frame of reference for my composition, so much more so than not having one. Right? So if I'm looking at this little fellow, look at where the center of the painting is, right in his forehead, right? So that tells me, like, okay, see the forehead kind of doing this, and this. All right, look at those. Look at this hand. These fingers just kind of right here. We have the fingers going like this. You know, we have the wrist here. We have this hand going like this, right? And his little, look at his little mouth, where it is, right? It's to the left of the center line there. So I'm going to say like, okay, his little mouth is going kind of over here, right? His little cheeky, the ear is kind of right by this line, kind of here, right? So that just really, you know, you can go and be a freewheeling painter and paint over this grid line that you have on here, and it just is, you know, look at how this eye sits on that line, right? There's just so much more frame of reference than just starting with a blank canvas with nothing on it, right? So this is not to kind of stifle your creativity or stifle your painting or anything, but just to give you a little bit more structure and support in trying to think about the composition, all right? And I have a still image here. What I have is, this is a viewfinder that I made. So it's in my hand here is a note card that I cut a window out of. And the window is, in this case, 3 by 4. It's 3 by 4 because the paper, the canvas I'm painting on is that same ratio. All right, so that would mean, you know, you have a 9 by 12, or you have a, you know, a 15 by 20 or something like that, right? So 18 by 24, I think, is, in this case, is an 18 by 24, all right? So anyhow, I cut out a window and then made some little notches in the top, bottom, and sides, and stretched some string through there, all right? So then, if I was looking at a live model, so I'm looking at my iPad here and pretending like it's a person sitting in front of me, and I can use this to look through this little viewfinder. So if you ever go out and do some plein air painting, or you have a live model that's sitting in front of you that you're trying to paint their portrait or draw them or anything like that, and you want some help with composition, this is a good way to give yourself just, you know, a clear frame of reference, right? So if I'm looking in here, you can see the upper left quadrant is completely blank. Look at how her forehead rests on the center line. Look at the negative space between her face and her chest. Look at the how that hand with the books, you know, sprouts right out of the bottom. So this is something that's just very, very useful as an artist if you're trying to paint or draw anything. All right, so again, an introduction to a simple grid. You want to make sure you have the dimensions, or basically the shape of your canvas worked out. If your shape of your canvas is different from the painting you're doing or anything like that, you want to think of how you're going to address that. All right, and then, yeah, so there's my talk on the grid and on viewfinders.